that Bill 27, Renewable Electricity Act, be amended as follows, as written in this one everyone has. It's asking about economic impact assessment. I'm saying the following is added after Section 2, Economic Impact Assessment, 2.1, 1 month after the date on which this Act receives royal assent, the Minister shall prepare a projection of impact of renewable electric energy targets established in Section 2 on Alberta's economy. The Minister shall lay a copy of the projection prepared under subsection 1 as soon as practicable before the Assembly if it is then sitting, or if it is not sitting, within 15 days after the commencement of the next sitting. And then B, Section 23 is struck out and the following is substituted. Coming into force. This Act comes into force 60 days following the date on which the Minister lays the projection prepared under Section 2.12 before the Assembly. Madam Chair, we presented similar amendments to all of the major bills this government has brought, which has the potential to transform our system massively. Mr. Chair, this Bill 27 and other bills like 25, they can transform this system, and this can have far-reaching impacts on our economy presently and also in the future. And that's why it's only fair that an economic impact assessment be prepared and tabled before this Act takes effect. So before going down the track of ISO developing proposals, Mr. Chair, the Minister needs to know what the province is getting into, what they are asking us to accommodate in future. So Albertans have every right to know what the impacts are of these agreements before they are developed by ISO, Independent System Operator. Governments often goes headlong into ideological policies without first establishing what the real-life impacts will be. And a case in point here, Mr. Chair, is Ontario. And Ontario put their ideology and communications before economics in their quest to look green, and look where, and now we all know where they ended up. It's not a laughing matter. Ontario has ended up with $37 billion more in electricity payments by the consumers or ratepayers or taxpayers, whoever it is, but it's all the same. Ontarians ended up paying that bill. So that's why, Mr. Chair, this is a very friendly amendment, and you need to know what you are doing before you do it actually. So the Minister needs to know because Alberta's economy is at stake. We're talking about billions of dollars here. That's why we needed a robust debate before we start down the wrong path, and nobody can argue that. And this government wants to cap the electricity prices at 6.8 cents, but renewables need almost twice that to be profitable. And on the top of it, system requires major investments in backups. So how are we squaring this circle? This government is trying to transform the whole economy. They are trying to transform how we live, how we make our living, because they are attacking the jobs, and there is no solid plan to create equal number of jobs in this renewable sector. If there are, if somebody has done that economic impact analysis, we are asking the Minister to present. If they really did that, they should share with Albertans. What are they trying to hide? And why are they hiding? I don't get that, Mr. Chair. To have an economic impact of this kind of transformative bills, major bills, is irresponsible. And also, Mr. Chair, we all like renewables, and we mean it, but we want the renewables to be economical, reliable, efficient, and safe. Now, how do we know if the renewables that are proposed by this government or any of those, if an economic impact analysis is not done? For us to determine that these renewables are economic, reliable, efficient, and safe, we need an economic impact study. For example, on safety, we don't want solar panels turning into giant bug zappers. We don't want. Albertans don't want. Nor do we want wind turbines killing birds and bats. And we certainly do not want hydro turning fish into sushi, Mr. Chair. And on reliability, we want the electricity there when we need it, not like in Pakistan or some other country when government says when you can have the power. I've seen that in other countries where I live. Government will determine when you can have power. I have seen that, Mr. Chair. And there were mosquitoes in those countries, and you can't switch on your ceiling fan because the government of the day decides whether you can have the power during that particular time or not. They can turn on and turn off the switch as the government choose to, in their wisdom. They may have good intentions, but they didn't have reliable power to support the public. That's why countries like India and China, they still have hundreds of millions of people without electricity. They're not stopping. Their priority is to electrify those villages and supply power to hundreds of millions of people. They are going to add hundreds of gigawatt of whatever power, whether it is thermal, renewable, whatever. They're not going to take the suggestion from member from Calgary East or West or North or South. They're not waiting. Their priority is to feed their population. They have to first provide shelter, food, clothing for their poor people. We can sit here and give all sorts of lectures, and we can't control those emissions that they are generating because we can't build walls in the sky. It's going to flow our direction. Whether Mr. Trump decides not to have a cap on emissions or Mr. Wall decides not to have emissions, there's nothing we could do about that. We can't protect our boundaries. So that's why, we had to look at the big picture and we had to do the economic impact study. And another reason, Mr. Chair, is on efficiency. We want the electricity as close to the consumers as possible so there is little loss of power as it converts to heat going across power lines. So, and then, have you ever heard of Ohm's law at all, Mr. Chair? This is that big omega symbol in the equation where resistance equals to voltage divided by the amperage. That's what I studied in electrical technology when I did engineering, mechanical engineering, but that's an elective subject, requisite subject. And the lower the restraint, the more electricity that goes through the lines. And that's why there is so much research and development into superconductors. But if we don't do economic impact analysis, we won't figure it out, whether it is efficient or reliable, safe, economical, we won't. And it's our job to convince Albertans that we have done all that and we are ready to implement this bill, which no government member could tell, neither the minister nor the members from the ruling party can tell us they have done that. If they have done it, either they are not sharing with us or because of the reasons that they want to hide it from Albertans, we don't know. If you haven't done it, do it. If you have done it, share with us so Albertans know what are the economic impacts before ISO goes and do their gig and send bills to the taxpayers or ratepayers, Mr. Chair. So that's why it is quite essential to do economic impact analysis before we get into it. It's not too late. I urge all members of this House to support this amendment and prove to Albertans we can work together and we can collaborate and we can make bills better. So I ask all members to consider that and vote in favor of this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.